From being the best ever to step into the octagon to fighting with a bone sticking out of his toe, here's why Jon Jones is the scariest fighter in the UFC. There's no one who could do what Bones has done in his career, and his stats speak for themselves. The man's been unbeaten for more than a decade, has taken on and defeated some absolute killers during his time in the UFC. I mean, think of guys like Daniel Cormier, Chael Sonnen, and Vitor Belfort, just to name a few. Trust me guys, the list is long and every fighter was better than the last one. Jon was able to dominate all of them. The only loss he faced in his career was against Matt Hamill, and that too was a disqualification because Jones landed illegal elbows on the guy. Hamill may have won that one, but his face was all opened up. And you can only imagine what Jones would have done to him if the fight was allowed to continue. Not only was Jones the longest reigning champ in the history of the light heavyweight division, he did it in such a way that no one could even dream of. Sure, the UFC stripped him of his title on a couple of occasions, but that was due to his extracurricular activities outside the cage. If there was any doubt about how good this guy was, he addressed that emphatically on his return to the octagon in 2023. Who would have thought that a fighter could sit out for 3 years and return to decimate his opponent? That's exactly what Jon did. He made his return to the octagon as a heavyweight and was thrown into the mix against Cyril Gane, a guy many said moved like a middleweight, but y'all know how that ended. Jones didn't even need his huge arsenal of strikes to take out the Frenchman. Just a couple of minutes into the fight, Jon shot for a takedown, took Gane's neck, and finished him off with a guillotine choke. Cyril didn't even know what happened. He was left sitting on the canvas in disbelief as Johnny Bones secured the title for himself, and in doing so, became a double champ. Jon was just too good that night, and his larger-than-life persona didn't help Gane at all. In fact, I think that the Bone Gaiman was scared even as he was walking into the octagon, because he knew he was going up against a man who could tear him from limb to limb if he wanted to. That's never a good mindset to have when you're walking into battle, but that's precisely the kind of fear Jon inspires in his opponents. Many of you might think that things would have been different if it was Francis Ngannou in the cage, and I don't blame you. The Predator, too, is a scary dude, with a punch that hits like a Ford Escort going at full speed. But the thing about Jones is that he isn't afraid of that. It's a war for him when he's locked up in the cage. Anything goes. The man doesn't care, and he'll do almost anything to secure the win, no matter the cost to himself. Ngannou may have the strongest punch there is, but he's nowhere near Jon's striking prowess. Francis goes in there and starts swinging wildly. You've seen that on several occasions. Jones, on the other, is very technical with his strikes. He knows when to kick, when to punch, when to land an elbow, when to throw a knee, and above all, he knows when he needs to take the fight to the ground. Bones is truly the most complete fighter to ever step inside the octagon. If you don't believe me, then maybe you'll believe his stats. Jon has a striking accuracy of 57%. This is just insane, given that he's not a guy that's known for his striking, and on top of that, he has a striking defense of 64%. Grappling is another story, however. Jon has a takedown accuracy of 45%, and keep in mind that during his time, the light heavyweight division was rampant with wrestlers. But the best part of his technique is his takedown defense. You know how fighters would usually shoot at their opponents when they're getting their faces caved in? Jones would batter his opponents, and they'd try to take him down to avoid getting hit anymore. But Jon wouldn't just let them. That's why he has a takedown defense accuracy of 95%. What made it easier for him to do that was his reach. Standing at 6'4", Jones has a reach of 84 inches. And he knows how to use every single inch to his advantage. Combine all of those things and you've got a monster who knows exactly how to kill people. I mean, if we were living in the Middle Ages, Jon would be a warrior riding into battle with an axe, as Joe Rogan describes him. No wonder the UFC colorcaster pushed all his chips on black when he was talking about locking Jon in a room with Tyson Fury. In hand-to-hand combat, Jones has no equal. So I didn't understand why Fury took offense when Rogan said that. Like, sure, in a boxing match the Gypsy King would win, but in a street fight there's no doubt about the outcome. Jones wouldn't let Fury hit him. He'd probably just shoot for a takedown and start tearing him apart on the ground. Tyson probably realized that and decided that it'd be for the best if he just backed out of it, because that's a fight no one in the world wants to take. Trust me when I tell you guys, Jones holds back when he's fighting in the UFC. If he took a fight on the streets, he'll end up killing someone for sure. Even in the UFC, John did some stuff that was borderline illegal. Remember when Quinton Jackson talked about Bones being the dirtiest fighter ever? Rampage was recounting his fight with the UFC GOAT and how he left him with an injury that hurts him to this day. Jackson was moving forward, trying to close the distance on John, when he got hit right on the kneecap with an oblique kick. That hyperextended his knee. This wasn't just a one-off for Jones either. In fact, he used to do it often to his opponents just to discourage them from advancing on him. That was a career-ending move that not many fighters use, but John just didn't care. Eye pokes, spinning elbows to the back of the head, and these oblique kicks were pretty standard for John, but he was really smart about it. Like, he was rarely caught doing that, and even when he was warned, he'd done enough damage to secure the win. John later admitted that he was actually afraid of Rampage Jackson. But look what he did to the guy, and he kept ending his opponents' careers like that through the years. Remember when he broke Brandon Vera's orbital bone with that devastating elbow? The Truth thought was safe because he had bones in his guard, but John just sent him to the hospital. Vera needed reconstructive surgery because of that one strike. The man just doesn't care once he's inside the cage. He wants to murder whoever's in front of him. Think about what he did to Machida. He had the Dragon in a standing guillotine choke and didn't let go even as Lyoto went limp in his arms. When John did release him, the Dragon fell face first on the floor. And Jones just walked away without even taking a second look at his opponent. That's one of the coldest finishes in the history of the sport, but for John, it was still just the dawn of his career. A few years later, he'd spark one of the most intense rivalries in the UFC against DC. And he even told the former double champ what he was going to do to him in the octagon. Cormier was laughing when John said that he was going to head kick him into oblivion. But Bones was the one laughing at the end of the fight. Even after he dazed DC with that strike to the head, he kept his cool, and instead of rushing him down, he kicked Cormier's legs out from under him, so that he could finish his opponent off on the ground with ease. John's so composed in a fight that it's unfathomable. But at the same time, he doesn't care if he's hurt. When Johnny Bones was fighting Chael for the first time, he didn't even realize that he broke his toe in the middle of the match. Jones still won the fight with a TKO in the first round, and during the post-fight interview, he looked down and saw the bone from his toe sticking out. With complete disregard for his own safety, John just wants to win more than anything. That's why he's so terrifying to go up against, because he gives his all inside that octagon. So, from fighting with a bone sticking out of his toe to being the best ever to step inside the octagon, that was why John Jones is the scariest fighter in the UFC.